Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, fixing tired fast. With zero sugar and a convenient portable size, it's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. So go to 5hourenergy.com. That's the number 5hourenergy.com and use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB. Locked on CFB to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. And this is kind of a 5 Hour Energy maybe type of weekend, or I don't know, 72-hour energy, whatever we're going to need, because it is on and popping as of this weekend on the college football front, with all due respect to some of what we saw last week. Obviously, here in the 806, it gets real for us, Chris. Also gets real in the Big 12 Conference. We've got some questions we want to dive into on today's special edition of Locked On Texas Tech, voices from the YouTube comments pertaining to this weekend's game, and we will get right into it with question number 1. This is from our buddy Ed Enriquez, who says or asks, what would make you feel good about this coming weekend's game? If it's not a dominant performance, is it a red flag or just game one of the season? Maybe we just answer yes to all of the above. I'm not quite sure. What do you think, Chris? What are you looking for beyond obviously a win that you want to see really be a part of this game to have you feeling good about going into week 2?
Calvin, you've been doing this a long, long time, just like I have. And so let's play this game. If you win 30-28, 30-20, I don't know, whatever it may be, just something fairly close, you're going to get a few that go, oh, man, glad we won. But then everybody, the sky's going to be falling. If you win this game 63-0, everybody's going to say, God, ACU is just terrible. Like, we didn't learn anything from our team. ACU is just so bad. So in some ways, you just – and I could probably already tell – I mean, the people that are going to feel certain ways about, whatever it may be are probably already going to feel that way before the game is even played. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So there's that component. Openers are tricky, as we saw last weekend. There's things about your team, and everybody's going to have these things. There's going to be things about your team that you think you know, but you don't. There's going to be things about your team that are pleasant surprises and that are potential problems. That's why I think most coaches have said over the years, you learn more about your team, or you see the most improvement from your team from week 1 to week 2. Mm-hmm. That's a reality.
And Joey McGuire reiterated that being a real thing this week. He brought up that very talking point, and he said it's true.
Yeah, and because there's just nothing that you can do to replicate some of these things in the scrimmages or whatever until it gets live, and until, if we're being honest, until you put 60,000 people in the stands and create what some would suggest a lot of potential distractions for young players. You don't know who will be like not unfazed and who will handle that with no problem. Okay, but now let's dig into the question. I think some things that you want to see. I think you would love to see some offensive line success, and what I mean by that is Barron needs to stay fairly clean in the pocket. I think you want to see Taj Brooks kind of have a day. If Barron stays clean and Taj Brooks has 80 to 120 yards, I think you feel pretty good about the way the offensive line would have played. We don't know what that starting group is going to look like just yet. I have a feeling you'll see multiple groups of 5 in there in a game like this. How soon we see some changes made every third series. Hey, let's start the second quarter this way. I mean, I don't really know what that is going to look like, but I would be floored if you don't. They're not going to put 5 out there to start the game, and that's the 5 that are going to finish it. I don't believe that at all, based on the way Joey has talked. And then you're putting these ors on the depth chart and things like that. And no, that's not an oar to row a boat or anything. That's you're putting either or on the deal. So there's that component. And then I think you want to see defensively, because I think Keith's defense with ACU, I think there's some concern for Abilene Christian on their defense. I think they've lost, I don't want to say potentially their version of Jacob Rodriguez to a knee injury, and so they're going to be missing a key component on the end, like on the linebacker kind of a guy that I think they thought a lot of. But Keith has played these Power 4 teams before, and he's kept it close. He's a really good defensive coach. They'll do something that kind of keeps this game, reasonable, in my opinion, at least on that side of the ball. Where I wonder, though, is where you're going to come out and try to run the air raid with a new coordinator and all that. And I think that Tim's group on that side of the ball, based on what we had seen, I'll be shocked if they don't play really well. And that's not a fairly lopsided affair between your defense and their offense, if that makes sense. Maverick MacGyver's a good player. He's not great. I think he could have a career day, but I think that's what it would take for them to ultimately beat you for 60 minutes. I just don't know if he could put that together. And I'm not trying to naysay Maverick MacGyver. There's a reason that he couldn't crack the code here and all those things. And then I just wonder about their group up front on the offensive line compared to what you will throw at them with your front seven. So that's what I would say. But I mean, I'm thinking 31-10, 34-13. It may not be a big of a blowout as many want, but I bet you ultimately win this game comfortably. And that I was asked on that preview the other day, Cowan, one word to sum up this deal, and I use the word comfortable. I think that's all you can ask for. You want to win the game first and foremost, but yeah, you just want to ultimately have some comfort level so you can get into maybe some of this depth and throw some more guys out there.
Well, and I would have to say, going back particularly to Easy Ed's wording within his question, if it's not dominant, is there a red flag? I'd have to say, hell yeah, it's a red flag, because I get it's week one, but we're talking, this is still an FCS matchup, right? I think ACU is still a football championship subdivision program.
They are transitioning.
Okay.
They will be.
Point being, in all aspects, if you're allowing them to keep it close, I'm thinking red flag. If your quarterback is breathed on in any way whatsoever, aside from like fourth string offensive line, in a 25-point margin in the fourth quarter, aside from a situation like that, if we're talking about first stringers and Baron Morton's got any pressure whatsoever, that is a concern, particularly if it's consistent. Now, if somebody's beaten one play here or there, obviously, no big deal. It's still a football game and that can happen. But clean pocket you touch on, and I think that is of paramount importance, because you're really looking to gauge what should be a really lopsided advantage in the trenches for a Power 4 program versus a program of an Abilene Christian's ilk, even within a transitioning period. So I think that definitely stands out. And yeah, it would be a red flag if it's not dominant on the scoreboard as well. Some things that just come to mind to me have to also do with cleanliness, because I think you kind of have to look within for some goals or for some objectives beyond just scoring more points than the other team. A game like this, it needs to be all about Texas Tech. So I think you kind of look at, hey, how are we doing in a penalty column? Did we play a clean day, or did we have, stupid penalties that began to pile up? What does it look like from a turnover perspective? Again, aside from, your third or fourth quarterback that might be in there, whenever it's your plan A, I don't want to see you giving the football away. And obviously that is a talking point going into the season in general, that you really got to clean up what you're doing, both in giving the football away and then taking the football away. You want to do that a lot more often. Obviously, we want a wide margin on the scoreboard, but those would be some of the things that I would point to as far as maybe just some details that might give an indication of the type of day you had as a team yourself.
And I think they are Division One. I'm wrong. I mean, they
already transitioned.
I think, yeah, I think so. I knew that the process started.
Division One FBS, Division One AA, Triple AA.
I wanted to make sure, and they've got a lot of Power 4 type guys on their team, or that once were. But I look in an opener, because I'm probably most locked in on number 2 in this game.
Yeah.
Just because everybody's gonna, hey man, if you don't score a touchdown on the first 17 drives that you have, you know, like, oh, okay, this is not going well. But he's gonna be amped up. There's gonna maybe potential for some overthrows. Micah Hudson's not going to score it every time he touches it. Josh Kelly's not going to score every time he touches it. There's going to be a time where you hand it to Taj Brooks and he gets a 1-yard game or a 2-yard loss. I mean, This is football, right?
Sure.
And I think that you're going to have some youth in the secondary that, Trey Cleveland could get behind, and you go, uh-oh. I mean, but this is the gap is smaller than ever before when it comes to these divisions and all, because of the portal. And I think that's what makes it a bit scary. And especially when you're going against somebody with a new coordinator, or, oh, okay, Keith's calling this defense now, so he didn't do that last year. Well, how different is it going to look?
Yeah.
There's some unknowns there. And we've practiced the whole month for this, and they showed us that. So that's the fun part.
There should be a big difference from a personnel standpoint, from an athleticism standpoint. But, between the years, the guy under the headset, Keith Patterson, obviously we got a lot of respect for, and there's no telling what he might dial up that could give the Red Raiders some trouble. So appreciate the question there, Ed, and would love to hear from you guys as to what you want to see in the YouTube comment section beyond just a win. What would mean something to you for Texas Tech as we transition from week 1 to week 2? All right, appreciate that question. Let's get to question number 2. First, today's episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy fixes tired fast. Whether you have a long list of tasks at work or a bundle of do-it-yourself projects to tackle at home, take a 5 Hour Energy shot so you can cover everything with energy to spare. If you're like me, you've always got a lengthy list of things to get done around the house, so when you're getting your supplies for any project, don't forget the most essential one, a 5 Hour Energy shot. 5 Hour Energy shots give you the feeling of alertness and energy you need to get in the zone. And that's why 5 Hour Energy is the brand hardworking people like you have trusted for over 20 years to give them the alert, energized feeling they need to get through a busy and hectic day. And you always know where to find 5 Hour Energy shots, right at the cash register at nearly every convenience, drug, and grocery store nationwide. And even better, you can stock up on money-saving multi-packs to make sure you never run out of delicious, energizing 5 Hour Energy shots. And right now, if you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy today, you can use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB. That's LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. Hurry, because this offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions and does not apply to subscription orders. Boost your day and boost your life and get in the Get It Done zone by going to 5hourenergy.com today. Let's get to question number 2. This is from our buddy Chase Wade, who asked this question, Chris. Based on recruiting and younger guys getting older, how many years away is Tech from having a true offensive line that isn't supplemented through the portal? This is kind of a tricky one because obviously you got to look in the crystal ball, and now the portal being what it is, do you ever truly get away from supplementing things through the portal? But it is specifically about the offensive line, so maybe that narrows it down a little bit further. But what's your reaction to a question like this?
Yeah, this is a great question because the reason it makes it for a great question, there's just not exactly just one way to answer it. Hence the reason that it's tough to answer, making it a good question. I think so. You're going to lose, Porche. I think you're going to lose Scurry. You're going to lose Rogers. You're going to lose Carter to graduation. Jackson Hughes also comes in here. So there's like 5 guys that you're going to lose. At some point, you are going to be able to replace from within fairly regularly. I don't know if it's safe to say that you're ever going to get away from the portal if you need a quality big person, if you can go find the right fit. But at some point, your Daniel Sills, your Dylan Shaws, your Holton Hendricks, your Caden Carrs, your Jacob Huntons, there's a lot of names that we're talking about, but these essentially, if you were to say we're not doing the portal thing anymore, you'd have a bunch of sophomore type guys and some redshirt freshmen next year. And does that warm you on the insides there, or does that
A little
concern you a little bit?
nerve-wracking. A little nerve-wracking. Yeah.
I think there's a big difference at this level in being in the weight room and a nutrition program and playing college football when you're, 2 or 3 years is a massive difference, maturity level and all that kind of stuff. But it's not pretty quickly, though. You're not going to have to go to the portal and say, we got to go find 4 dudes. Maybe at some point pretty quick, we just need to find 1 or 2. And we don't need them to come in and play right away, or we don't need them to save us. These are depth pieces, or let's bring them in and kind of fight for a starting spot. And because we've got some internal candidates, you'll scale this back. That's the best way to answer it. I hate to ride the fence on it, but the truth is somewhere in the middle. I can't tell you that you're a year away, or you're a year and a half away, or you're 2 years away, or that you're ever going to get away from the portal. There's a happy medium there, and I think they'll always find that. But I think that you may not have to go all in on the portal, kind of like they did, Porche, Carter, Scurry, Rodriguez, Jackson Hughes. I mean, there's 5, guys that are really at the top end of the depth chart. But then, Rodriguez is maybe going to redshirt, and you've got all these young kids. So
that's a big red shirt, by the way. God almighty. Quadruple XL for a guy like that to have a red shirt on. I'm looking forward to his future. Hopefully we see him make an impact. But yes. I'm kind of conflicted on I can't quite figure out if it is my assumption when you bring a portal guy in, you're like, man, we need you to be a starter. My assumption is, okay, that's not a good indication. That's not a positive sign as to the state of your offensive line. But then at the same time, the conflict is that I feel like you would almost only ever go to the portal for a guy that you wanted to be a starter, because you'd be going for some veteran guys in a way. And I don't think you're wanting a last year guy in college football, his final season in college football, to come in and be a depth piece necessarily. So I don't know, because I'm thinking okay, maybe you're not getting away from the portal, but can it be better than the way I feel right now, where you brought in multiple guys and you're thinking about maybe 3 of them being starters immediately. And that doesn't really give me the warm and fuzzies. But at the same time, I'm kind of thinking, well, what would you want them to be if they're that old? You want them to be depth pieces? Well, no, I don't really want them to be that either. So I don't know. Maybe it still remains where 1 of your 5 is a portal piece, and you want him to be a starter in year 1, and he's an old head instead of 3 of the 5 or 2 of the 5. But does it make sense what I'm saying? I haven't quite figured out, is this a good symptom or a negative symptom when you're having to ask guys to come in and immediately carry such a big load? I guess time will maybe inform my opinion a little bit more as to what it means, but I'm kind of conflicted in it, I suppose, right now.
There's not a position group on anybody's team that keeps everybody up later at night than what is up front on the offensive line. And I think what everybody saw is the price tag for good ones out there in the portal was a lot higher than anybody would have anticipated, because it means everything in some ways. And, and I think Jackson Hughes, this was somebody that was brought in to be, hey man, come on in. You got 1 year. It was after spring. So this was the timing was a bit different. Compete for some playing time at tackle. And I think right now he's just an insurance policy. He's not somebody they're necessarily counting on, but I bet he's 7th, 8th, 9th in that sweet spot as far as where he would be. I mean, he may have to start some games for you this year, depending on what happens.
Sure.
I'll tell you where you may, this isn't really the instance that you brought up, but where you'd really like to hit the portal, though, is if you go find people out there that you maybe had a relationship with or recruited before that have 2 or 3 years left.
Right.
Because there's some high school offensive linemen that are not committed to you with this class that has not signed yet. They were offered a lot of things by other Big 12 programs. And now the revenue sharing thing may switch and tweak that. So
good point. Yeah.
Maybe wondering, do they not really end up getting what they were told they were going to get? And so I could see this is why you don't burn bridges.
Right.
Some people just light the gas it up, flame it. I'm never talking to you again. Screw you. All that. In college, athletics and recruiting and everything, boy, hey man, good luck to you. Like
Yeah.
stay in touch, keep my number, that whole deal, because in a year or two, or heck, maybe this December.
Yeah, it may circle back around a lot quicker.
That's right. Right. And
You
that's
never
really
know.
where you'd want to go portal, is when you find some guys that are like, that have been sitting there on somebody's Power 4 roster for a couple of years, and like, man, it's
Yeah.
just not happening, or they just don't like it, and you've got a warm seat at the table for them with the fork and the knife. Do you always work the utensils like outside in? Isn't that the rule? Like when
I'm not sure. I just carry a pocket knife in my pocket. Usually work it that way. Utensils? You're getting paid enough to have utensils?
This is why you're great, Colin. I
I'm
mean,
a
that's
country
right.
bumpkin.
No, this is why you're money. I love it. Yep.
Man, appreciate some of your bonus time today, Chris. We got plenty coming up this weekend, so make sure you're subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you don't miss anything as far as game coverage is concerned, and some reaction following the conclusion. So looking forward to that. Until then, appreciate your time as always.
Absolutely.
Everybody get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thanks for the questions and all the comments submitted. Keep them coming, as we are quite literally just getting started this fall. With Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks for being out there, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.